Welcome everybody that logged in for the live stream. We're going to build this Picatinny mount. If you can hear me talking, go ahead and comment in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay, but I can see it here in a second. Alright, so this is the object we're going to be making today. Just a Picatinny rail for the FX chronograph. I took two objects. These are just the individual pieces, the handle, the pivot pin, and then the plate. And this is just a little Picatinny rail I grabbed to make sure everything fits. Alright, so this is all we did is I had a base and a Picatinny rail. So I'm going to go ahead and import those so you can see how I put it together. Move all that out of the way. So when you download your STL, you're going to have it on your hard drive. So we're going to import and then go where you imported it. FX Chronobase. And that's the base off of Thingiverse after it converted. And then we want the Picatinny. So we're going to go and get the quick release mount hub, import. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I'll go ahead and start over. The video showing now? Can you see the tabletop? Alright, so we're going to start over again. So when you save it, you're going to import. And then we're going to find the Chronobase where I saved it. Alright, so we got our base. And then we're going to bring in the Picatinny rail from Thingiverse, the Picatinny adapter. And then we need to move everything to an orientation where we can kind of start stacking this stuff together. So click the object. Well, let's go and put a ruler first. Grab your ruler, put it on your desktop. First object, you can grab it and just it'll snap. And then we're gonna go ahead and rotate it again. So really all we're doing, we're gonna fill in the holes to make it look a little nicer. But I mean, literally right now, you could select both of those, center them up, and then eyeball. See how there's that little space right there? You'd want to fill in that space. I'm gonna make it a little nicer than that, but you can go to your grid spacing, turn that off. And you can get it just so it's sinking in. Right about there. Sometimes it's hard to see where it's actually synced in, but you can just go that little bit extra. If you wanted to, right there, you could highlight and then group. And that's all it would take. Now we're going to go ahead and make it a little bit nicer. So we're going to ungroup it. We're going to go ahead and put 0, and that's going to drop that to the tabletop. I'll just take a box to fill in that hole. Don't have to do anything fancy. Zero. So if we want to see what that's 20, but the actual item we're going to fill in is 4.5 high, so we can just click this until at 4.5. And you can center it up if you wanted to. And then once you're kind of, okay, Go ahead and select it. Go to your group. And now that hole's filled in. Sometimes it'll leave a little artifact. When you actually print it, you won't see that. And then we're just going to do the same thing here. You can do a square. Now, if you were actually in one of the Fusion 360s or something that's a little easier to work with, you probably get that perfect. But let's say, you know, just kind of eyeball it for what we're doing. You take that one, duplicate, repeat, and then since we already know the size, and we just can carry that over, group it, select them all, group, and then that fills in those holes, and we didn't mess up any other part of it. Now, so it's not, just in case when it mounts, so we're not hitting anything, I would say go ahead and drop a box on there. And then we're just going to make it the size of the piece we're working on. And again, if you were in one of the Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, you could actually tell it to snap to these different areas probably a little bit easier, but I'm just kind of showing how basic without having anything fancy you can. So our base was 4.5. So let's go in that. Let's make a 4. So let's make this about 8.5. So that's our base, and then we could stick this on there. So we're going to group those two pieces, and then we can take our base. Actually, you know what? Let's make those the same width. So the width is 29. Just go back, ungroup. Tell that we're going to do that one 29. We'll center it up. Right here, align. Center it, and then we'll go ahead and group it. All right. So now these two will be the same thickness. So all we're going to do is take this, center that up, and then we'll center it both directions. So that mount is at an angle. We could either leave it as an angle, or we can square it up, or we could sink it down into it. So let's just, I think it looks a little bit weird like that. We'll just sink it down into it. There we go. So now we've got our two items, and now they're merged. Now we do have this little artifact. If you wanted to, you could just so if you wanted to kind of cut off that last little bit right there, and then just kind of makes it look a little bit cleaner. Now the other pieces, we just import in. So we want our other pieces of the rail. These were just off of Thingiverse. And these are the same items that are on the side of the screen that from what I built before. So it looks like the computer's running a little bit slow. Okay, there it is. So, and again, this is a part that's going to be loose. That's just if you wanted to see kind of how it would look when you put it together, you can move all this stuff around. So you can make that one hollow if we want to kind of line up the holes. But these are all the same pieces here, where there's, when you put the screw through, it has a place for the nut, and then that just sits there. And then there's a little pin that goes inside there. And again, this isn't something you're going to group together. I'm just kind of showing you guys what the shape is going to look like. And so there you go. I mean, it's just that easy when you take two objects, a Picatinny, and then we took a plate and we just stuck them together. Now on this one, I made it a little bit higher when I was playing around with it, but it's the same thing. If you went on Thingiverse and got a flashlight holder, it would be the same thing. You would just, let's pretend this is going to be my flashlight holder. I took a tube, and I don't know, flashlight would be probably about 40 millimeters. So make it 40 by 40. Then we're going to drop a hole in the center. Here's, let's make the outer one 44. 45. Now here where it says sides, I always take that and go to as many facets as it'll go, which is not very many, but what that does is it makes it a little bit rounder shape. Now we have our hole we're going to cut. Right here, the align tool helps you center it. You're going to group it. And let's just say hypothetically we're going to make the holder for that. Now let's say this is the piece off Thingiverse. Let's say I upload this to Thingiverse, but now I want to make it a holder. You could just take this. We're going to cut the top of it off. So you're going to get a hollow box. And that hollow box, all it does, it's going to cut off the top. So when we say group, we just cut off what we worked on. Now, if you're going to stick this on here, let's think how we're going to do it. I'll go ahead and put a box. And I'll show you guys in a second. We're going to line up the box. Go ahead and merge that. Group. We don't want, can't stick the flashlight in there, so easy way to do is, since we did it earlier, we'll ungroup. And then ungroup. And then that cut there. And now when we regroup it, that hollow point made the cut for us. So we can go, stand it up. Take it over to the object we just made. Center it. Center it. And then we'll go ahead and align the bottom. Group it. And I just totally did that wrong, didn't I? I made a FX mount onto a band, but I did the wrong way. So we can go back up. back up. You know what, let me just ungroup. Let me save that. Ungroup. Okay. So I cut off the wrong side. So we're going to drop this down. And we want to cover the whole bottom part. So whatever we're going to delete, we cover. Group. There we go. There's our Picatinny. So we're going to stick the flashlight onto the back of that. We're going to use this little pivot. It locks on. So we're going to grab that 180. And then let's go ahead and center everything up. And group it, and then this would be, if you put that on your Picatinny rail on the side, then you could put a flashlight through here. And let's say you wanted to make a little locking flashlight where it can screw onto it. We want to make a cut to make a little slit, or if we wanted to put a little box for screws, let's go ahead and flip this all the way, make it easier for me to work on it. Maybe 5mm. Yeah, I'll do about 7. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to see the sides. Sometimes it's hard to get in TinkerCAD to get that just perfect lined up.